I work in the psychology department. I have been working with Dr. Fillmore for 17, 18 years. I started at UK as an undergrad in 1996, so I've been here for a long time. When I graduated, I started working with Dr. Fillmore full time and just kind of stuck. So I've been working with him a long time. I've done all kinds of different research. When I was an undergrad, I worked doing process evaluations of the drug court. I worked in Dr. Mike Bardo's lab working with animals and behavior. And then I landed in the human research category, which I really love. And I feel like I'm an expert at participant recruitment because I've been doing it for so long. But like I mentioned to her earlier, is things have changed so much just in the last 3 years in terms of contacting people, how to get a hold of people. The first 10 years of my career, it was all phone work. I remember getting my first email my second year in college and the dial-up internet and all that stuff, So I've experienced all of it. And so I'm getting used to people not answering the phones. Everyone wants a text or an email. So we have to kind of, adjust how we do things as researchers. Which RedCap has definitely been amazing research match. And I actually was so grateful when CCTS was created, and we had a whole department, here dedicated to helping us recruit participants, and it's been amazing. So I don't know if you all have ever not had CCTS, appreciate them very much. But again, I'm a research analyst principal, and I've worked in the cognitive neuroscience lab forever, and we've had a lot of different difficult populations that we've had to deal with. Initially, working with ADHD patients or just clients, people who have had that diagnosis. We had adults 21 and older for alcohol-related studies. We also had children. I think there were 9 to 11 was our age range. We were looking for people who were diagnosed with ADHD, that were taking medications regularly. And we would bring them in at the lab and test them unmedicated. So they were also having to be willing to not take their medication. So that was a pretty difficult, challenging population that we dealt with at one point. DUI offenders. That's a whole nother world too, finding people in our community that have been arrested for DUIs. Also with a time frame, an age range, also getting people who don't have other disorders or other issues going on in their life. That's a pretty hard population as well. Binge drinkers. Seems kind of easy, especially when you're on a college campus, but again, you have criteria. So, half the people that are calling aren't going to be eligible, even if they think they're a binge drinker. They probably aren't. Currently, I'm working on a project that we're looking for females who are not taking birth control. That also sounds relatively easy until you put the other criteria, which is 21 to 29, heavy drinkers that aren't taking birth control. So we're getting lots of respondents, but we're just not getting the right combination. So, and just in general, every participant is, in my opinion, kind of hard to find because everyone has certain criteria. Some are like, hey, everyone, come. That's rare, for any researcher to just be able to take anyone. So even our normal social drinkers criteria is a difficult population because they can't have diagnosis for disorders. They can't be taking medications because they all have to, all the controls and the confounds you have to control for. So, in reality, all participants are difficult. So in my, 20 years of being here, I have found a lot of resources that work and a lot of resources that don't really work. So that's going to be kind of the basis of my talk is that. And then at the end, I really want to hear from all of you guys about what you all have done and what you guys have experienced. And in the meantime, also kind of brainstorm that female no birth control population, because I'm going to ask if you guys have any ideas about that as well. It's a learn situation here. But On-campus resources, there are a lot, especially if you're looking in that college age range, that 21 to 29, 21 to 40 really age range. So what I found, one of the most amazing resources is our Disability Resource Center that we have on campus. Anyone who's diagnosed with a disorder that might impair their ability to do something can register with the Disability Resource Center. So whatever population you're looking at, if it includes a diagnosis, this is going to be a good resource for you. With our ADHD population, I'd say 80% of the people that we recruited and ran came from Disability Resources. We thought student health would be a great resource. Met with people, got their signatures, got all the letters together so that they could get all the, the right signatures to give us the correct access and all of that, and never got a single referral from student health. So and that was several years ago, so I'm not saying don't try, but I think it was just, they're just so busy there that they don't think, oh, I have a study I need to refer to the students that are coming in here. So, we might revisit that eventually when it's a population that we think they'll help us with, but right now we've just kind of moved forward away from student health. Flyers. I know that's a hard one, right? Because you actually have to get out there and you have to get your pins and your tape and hanging and where do I go? And oh, you have to have the stamp and oh, they're going to take it down in a week, So it seems like a lot of effort for just you're like, are people even seeing this? I have to say yes. We do get lots of calls from the flyers that we post ourselves. CCTS is great. They get them in the medical office, and I don't know where all their balls are. It's great, but we do get calls from people on the ones that we hang ourselves. So like when you're looking for a drinking population, bars, definitely. The Kentucky Clinic Pharmacy is a place we've had agreement with them, student health pharmacy. We actually had, now the clinic is all disarray now, so they've taken everything out, but once they get back, I'm gonna go back over there. But the student health pharmacy, we had little things we could put our flyers in, so that was really nice. But yeah, I say yes, do your flyers, put your flyers up. It definitely makes a difference. And then of course, as I've mentioned several times, CCTS is awesome because they're getting us on places like Facebook, all the online resources that we may or may not have access to individually, they can get us access. So CCTS is a great on-campus resource. Then there's off-campus resources as well. Like whenever you really, really need, like I only need 10 more people, and you're like, and I've been this way. I don't know if you guys ever have, but I've just been like, come on. Is it that hard to ask? And so yes, lots of off-campus resources. So with the DUI population specifically, going downtown, there is an online database. If you have information from any information from a person, you go down there, and we would use that more for verification of like, oh, this is verifying that this person really did have a DUI in Fayette County. But we also were able to get some information from people that we could contact later on. So maybe that wasn't what it was meant for, but we were able to do that, so it really helped. We connected, so if you all know DUI people who get arrested for DUI usually have to take some sort of classes. In Fayette County, there's like one program and everyone has to call them and sign up, and then they decide how long they have to do it. So we're like, hey, if we can get connected with these people, that would be great. And it went under a guise like where we're like, hey, we're gonna recruit people from your program and we're going to figure out how effective the program is. So we're gonna get recruitment from you all, you're gonna help us recruit. And so we figured once they would run that study, because we were paying a lot of money for it, then they would be eligible participants for our other studies. So it was kind of an underlying like, hey, we'll do this, study on how effective your program is so that we can get recruited subjects for other studies that we have. The caveat. We didn't really put it together that the person that was, so the program, Prime for Life program, people were like, yes, we want this, we want this, we want this. But the one person that was in charge of giving the information to the DUI offenders was the person that was being examined at how effective she was delivering this program. And we didn't think about that until we went a year in, and only had 2 people that she had referred, and like every person that's being arrested in Fayette County with a DUI is going to this person, and she's giving them information about the study. And it actually got harder for us to recruit because I felt like she was almost doing something to turn them against the research, because we couldn't even, because I'm like, every person in Fayette County is getting arrested is getting information about our research. And then they're not doing it, and they're not calling us, and I'm like, how is she presenting this? So we never really got to the bottom of that, other than we had 2 years of that with only 1 person that, or 2 people I think, that were recruited and ran in the Prime for Life study. So, you know, sometimes you're like, this is great, we're gonna have access to everybody, but think about the big picture, right? We're evaluating a program that this is her full-time job and this is what she's doing. So essentially we were evaluating her. So then we realized, hindsight, in a meeting, that, hey, maybe she's not cooperating because she doesn't want to be evaluated, which would make sense. And so that was a big learning lesson, because not only was she not getting us participants, it was possible in the back of our head that she was actually keeping them from calling us in the future, because we were getting less DUI offenders than we were before. So that was sad. LexTran buses, that's something that CCTS offers, I think, as an option. It wasn't that bad. It was a lot of money, so if you have a little surplus, then I would recommend advertising on the LexTran buses. The inside cards weren't very effective, but the back of the bus was effective. We would get several participants calling a month. So I'd say back of the buses. We had another idea for the DUI. We had these big, full-size posters, recruiting, and when people get arrested, they go to this holding cell in the jail. And we had this huge poster in the entrance of the jail as well as in the holding cell, which we were like, everyone's getting arrested for DUI is going to see this poster. And we even had little things they could take. They didn't have to take a picture, and they could take like the little tabs or whatever. And I think we got 2 calls, and we're like, why are they not seeing this? Why are they like, hey, I just got arrested, I probably need some money, you know, was our thought. But something would happen, and it just wasn't getting the hits that we thought we were. So, you know, again, another idea that you're like, hey, this could be amazing, and then not so much. So, and then finally, paid advertisements. I know that CCTS can help you with your Craigslist stuff. It's definitely an excellent resource to post on, like the etc. for jobs, Craigslist. The issue is each ad is for 30 days, but you really only get hits for about a week or 2. So I have overlapping ads, you know, so every 2 weeks you should probably post an ad. I'm also considering, because again, it's not as effective as it has been in the past, so I'm considering maybe doing different categories. So right now I've always just been in the etc. category, so maybe I'll look at different categories. But that is paid as well. So it used to be free, then it was $10, then it was $15, now it's $20. So that could also be a reason that people aren't going out there so much, is because they are upping the cost. So maybe there's not as many jobs listed there, so maybe people aren't going there as much. But I'm still doing it. We're still getting a couple calls from each post, at least within the week or 2 that we're there. So this leads me to, you put all this work into getting them, how do you keep them, you know? So I'm sure you guys all have, you know, your own system in place. These are just a few ideas that we've come up with, and other labs have come up with as well. So once you actually get someone who's eligible, it is important to keep in contact with them. You know, you've got the calls, you've got the text messages, you've got the emails. As I mentioned earlier, the phone call thing is not that effective in recruiting the participants, but once you get them interested in everything, phone calls are really effective. But text messages are too. It's just whatever you find, whatever is best for that participant. All of our studies, we give completion bonuses. That really gets people, you know, you don't want to say they're doing it for the money, but honestly, they probably are. I mean, so having the completion bonuses are really important, because then they're like, oh, I'm getting something extra. All of our studies are multiple sessions within subjects, so we don't want them just to come in one time. Like if you have just a one session study, that's a lot easier. We've had a few of those in our days, and I'm like, ooh, that's really easy. Get them show up one time, and then they don't ever have to come back. But when you're getting them, you need them to show up 4 or 5 times. A completion bonus is really, really, it's that carrot, right? You're like, hey, keep up, keep with me, stay with me. Something we have never done in my lab, but I've heard other labs doing this, is a referral bonus. I'll probably talk to my lab about this. When you do have subjects, the idea is that populations stay within populations, right? So if you get a person that is in your wanted population, they probably can refer other people that are in that. So having referral bonuses, I've heard, is really, really beneficial, especially for the populations that you need diagnosis with and things like that. And so that's one thing that I'm considering, and maybe you all have information for me at the end, is with the female population that's not taking birth control, I've been directed to the LGBT community. So if you guys have any access or ways to reach out to that community, I would love that information. So if anybody knows anything. Now, we pay our subjects as well, all this completion bonus, referral bonus. And a lot of people pay via, oh, you did my study, now you have to fill out this form, and we're going to submit this to our business office, and the business office is going to mail you a check in 3 to 4 weeks. I have found that is discouraging to people when they want to do studies. So I would highly recommend, if you're doing research with human subjects and paying them, you need to get your Impress account set up, and you need to have those checks so that you can write a check as they leave. So that would be I find that's huge. A lot of people will ask that specific question when I'm recruiting is, are you paying me when I get done, or do I have to wait for my check? And for some reason that matters to a lot of people. So I would definitely recommend setting up your Impress accounts. Now Roxanne, she definitely wanted me to talk about the Uber rides. That's something that helps immensely. With our lab, we have alcohol, so transportation, even if they have transportation, they can't use it because they're getting alcohol in our lab. So on certain sessions, they can, if it's a familiarization session, they can. But if it's the alcohol session, they can't drive anyway. So we have to provide the transportation on that level. We used to do yellow cab taxi. I would not recommend the taxi. I'm sure they've gotten even worse now, but because for years, taxis were the only option that we had for transportation. And it could take an hour for them to get here. The billing was always wrong. They would add tips to it. It was just really crazy. So I was so happy when Ubers and Lyfts became a thing, because it's a lot more, strict. Like they have a map. This is where they're going. This is where they're at. And it really simplified the idea of giving participants transportation. Because who picked them up, it's documented who picked them up, it's all documented. This is a little map I put up here because for us, yes,
Can I ask you a question?
Of course, yeah.
So about the Uber, do you have to create a special account for this?
Okay, so with the Uber, I just created an account with my, UKY email, contact my business office and say, hey, we have an Uber account that we're going to be offering rides, I need a pro card. And they would give me a credit card number to put in there. It's for research purposes, yep. And it's a business account. And so I just use that account when I call it. And of course, you can't, it's not going to be GPS. You have to put in both addresses because they're picking up, yeah. And you just set up the account, contact your business office, say, I'm doing this. They'll give you the pro card. Now, one issue that does come up is their pro cards get canceled sometimes. I'm not sure what college you're from, but in arts and sciences, the pro cards will sometimes be canceled. There's a breach or something happens, and so we won't know it. We try to use the card, and it's like, nah. So we just have to know that sometimes we have to use our own personal cards, and once you get a new pro card, you can easily change it. But that is one caveat, is that sometimes those pro cards will get canceled. They won't remember that you have it in your account, and then you have to get another card. But you can pay for that ride, and then they'll fix it. It's easy. It's really easy to fix. Because, at first, it wasn't, I had to get reimbursed. But Uber has it now that you can change payment method at any time after the ride. So because you can change your payment method, it's really easy to go back and fix that once, even if it's on a weekend. Like now, I've been able to fix it before the Uber even got there, if it was Monday through Friday 9 to 5. But because I can just call them and say, give me a new credit card number. But if it was on a weekend, then I would have to pay for it and then, go from there. So, but it's really easy to set up with your business office. Like once you submit the thing, they give you the number and it's good. But this is what I would send to my participants because, with all of the lovely construction, in Castle Hall, we used to be able to drop them off right here and we could just meet them in the parking lot. But all this is no longer here. So now they get dropped off here. So I just say, I send them this. I'm like, here, this is where you're getting dropped off. And then follow the blue line into the building. And it's worked. It's actually worked. So I just text that to the participants when I have the Uber. I'm like, your Uber is going to be here in so many minutes. This is how to get here. This is where you're going to get dropped off. And it just seems to work really well. So if you have any transportation issues or offerings for your participants, highly recommend the Uber. And I think that's it. So any questions or remarks about anything I said? And then I do want to throw out there, what experiences have you had? I would love to hear other experiences, like kind of stories like what I've said. Have you all had anything that worked or anything that didn't work?
So I had a question about men.
Yes.
How do we recruit men?
Oh.
90% of my studies are...
All men? Yeah.
No. 90% of my studies are all females.
Oh, okay.
I have easy time recruiting educated white females, terrible time recruiting anything else.
Oh, wow. Okay. I do the same thing for my males and females. So really the bars are, what is your population? Are you looking for drinkers?
If I'm looking for normal, healthy...
Just normal, healthy, anyone.
I'm looking for overweight people looking to lose weight.
Overweight people looking...
Do you want me in your research? But I'm female.
Right, exactly.
I get help with you guys.
So, I guess I'm going to ask you the same thing. How do you get females? Throughout my thing, I've up to this new study I'm working on, we've recruited males and females 50-50, exactly the same. And from what I can tell, the same things apply for the males and the females. We have our flyers at the bars, we have our flyers at the library. We're getting them from all over the place. The main thing is to canvas. Make sure you're everywhere. And mostly what we're getting now is CCTS, Craigslist, and flyers that are passed out. And that's what we're focusing on right now. But right now, I'm getting more phone calls from males and emails from males than I am the females. So I'm like, I just pass it along. Honestly, my idea is if we had a participant pool, that would be awesome. But there's so many restrictions and reasons why we can't do that. But sharing participants word of mouth, I find really is some of the best ways. But again, not ethical. But that's where Research Match is coming in. So Research Match is one of that database, right? That everyone's out there and they're just giving, the emails back and forth to everybody. So, but yeah, I would say the same way that you're getting the females, but you're having, where are you getting your females? Where do you focus your recruitment?
So a lot of the same things that you're doing with the flyers. And, I think it's just my research is geared towards, and every study I've been looking at, I'm a dietitian, so it deals with food and eating and exercise.
Women are more concerned about their health and their weight than men are. So honestly, you have to come up with a way to advertise for men. So with what you just said, I would say change your advertisement. Come up with something that's going to be more reflective to masculinity, like get in shape, get buff, find the ladies kind of thing. Again, you have to stay within the ethical guidelines, but but that would be my thought, is we have to, if we're only getting females, we got to figure out what's going to attract the males. Because they're seeing the advertisements. Yeah.
I don't want them, I want the...
But they're more likely to take yes to a study about weight loss because they're already kind of working on it.
Right.
Unless your exclusion criteria says no, it's their top. Okay.
Or have you
Right.
targeted men who go to doctors for diabetes?
Yeah, no, that would be a good...
That's a great idea.
And then again, a lot of times, I'm excluding diabetic.
Then never mind. Yeah, right.
Doctor's offices would,
Yeah. So my suggestion would be, if you're only getting females responding to your ads, then find a way to attract the male perspective. Like we put like wine glasses and beer glasses on our thing, even though they have to drink ethanol when they come in. But, they're like, oh, I thought I was going to be able to drink beer. You asked me what I liked. And I was like, yeah, that wasn't because of what we're giving you. But yeah, so any other, yeah.
So I have a question about completion bonuses and also, I guess, referral bonuses. Have you noticed a certain kind of amount of money that interests people or an amount of money that kind of doesn't interest people?
So,
especially considering if they're coming back multiple times?
So we do it based on whenever I'm creating a protocol and I come up with a study, I'm like, okay, I want them to be making like $15 an hour. So, we come up with all that and we're like, that's how much they're going to get paid just for participating. And then we come up with an idea of, okay, what would be rewarding? So if it's a 5-session study, we'll say we'll give $10 extra per session. So we would give a $50 bonus for that one. If it's only a 3-set, maybe a $30 bonus. So I would think about the population and what was involved in the study, and then come up with something consistent that you can just apply to all of your studies. But we figured like $10 a session was a good one, so that was kind of the last thing that we went with. So, and it's easier to explain to people too. You're like, well, you're making about $15 an hour, and you're going to get like $10 a session for your bonus if you finish. Because like, you still, if they don't finish, you still have to pay them, but they're not getting their completion bonus. Like if they do 3 out of 5 sessions, they'll get a lot more money to come in and finish those 2 sessions than to drop out after 3. They're only going to get a smaller amount, so they're more likely to finish in that way. But to come up with the amount, I would just base it on what they're being asked to do, how much time, how invasive, and just come up with a number that would relate to you. If you would think it's good, then I would say it's good. That's how I do mine. I'm like, if I'm willing to do this, then I think other people would be too. Because I'm a little bit higher. I won't, I'm like, if I'm willing to accept it, anyone will.